Welcome, everybody, to this next episode of Heresy Hammer, where we are going to be talking about weapons today. Now, we have been accused, Lee, a number of times, rightly or wrongly, of being a couple of Games Workshop shills. Now, I refute that, but what I am a shill for is our Patreon. And what we're going to do today is give you a little taste of the kind of thing that you can expect to see on our Patreon. So, our Patreon, for as little as £4 a month, we offer extra Tactica videos each month. At the moment, we've got a campaign going, just seeing out the remainder of 2.0. But we offer a whole host of Tactica videos each month. And this is just to give you a little sneak peek into what is available, and hopefully it's useful for you guys, even if you don't decide to sign up to our Patreon. I don't know why you wouldn't sign up to our Patreon, but even if you don't decide to, hopefully it will just give you an idea of what kind of shooting weapons might be valuable against different targets. Now, we are not, well, I mean, I certainly am, but Lee definitely isn't, mainly because he hasn't got an army to play with at the moment, meta chasers. But and certainly when I'm list building at the moment, I am finding I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I should take that weapon because I don't know whether it would be good against this certain target. Or at least like when I'm about to start playing, it's kind of like, will these autocannons be good against this Dreadnought? Like, should I fire at them with that? Will it do, is that an effective use of that squad? So what we're going to do today is just break down some of the key units and weapons that we think that you should probably have a look at in terms of which weapons I think will unlock the destruction of that unit. Call us meta chasers if you will, but that is absolutely fine. I've been accused of much worse in the past couple of days. Yeah, so if we go over to our next slide, as I say, we're choosing your ranged weapons in 3.0, and then what the next video we should be having a look at, and this will be exclusively for Patreons, is causing tactical statuses. So which weapons we think are most useful when causing tactical statuses, and we'll give kind of like a couple of weapons we think actually this will be good if you want to pin people or etc etc. So let's start off with infantry. So obviously the big one with infantry is that there's no longer artificer armor. How do you feel about that, Lee? Artificer armor is no longer
I
in.
feel extremely happy, to be honest. I am a happy little bunny.
Yeah.
I think for twofold. Don't get me wrong. It was always funny when you made like 20 saves on your sergeant and your opponent was
For
just,
you, it was funny. Yeah,
yeah,
but
it was
yeah.
funny for you, but
Yeah.
extremely frustrating when it happened
Yeah.
against you. It's just kind of dumb, really, isn't it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It just kind of I quite liked. I think it was SM Battle Reports kind of brought in a thing if you can make as many saves as your initiative. I quite
Yeah.
liked that. That was a kind of workaround. But yeah, it was just a bit daft. Like the sergeant just stood in the front and was like, "Get behind me! Do, 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 do. I have the artificial armor." Do, do,
Yeah.
do. And also, it opens up a lot more weapon options now, I think.
Yeah.
Weapons that before people wouldn't look at, I think now people will be like, you know what? That's going to be an infantry killer. Whereas
Well,
before it'd be like,
yes.
that's going to be saved
Yes.
by the sergeant.
Yes.
So,
Well, we
yeah.
are we are we are going to talk about that very thing at the moment. So, two up armor saves are in the game. But we just in this conversation we're talking about kind of basic infantry, basic tactical squads as well. And I think that people are going to be much less inclined to save it on a sergeant now because the call is just going to be
Yeah.
so important
Well,
as well.
there's no benefit to it, is there? Like your
No, no,
sergeant has a
no.
free up save. And
Yeah.
yes, you can add consoles, uh, you know, uh, characters to your
Mm.
squad, but do you want to be risking rolling those
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
on
and
these
losing that
characters?
call, I think, is going to be so
Yeah,
important. And
so
we'll get
yeah.
to how you can get rid of those, execute those characters on the table a little bit later.
Yeah.
So, one of the suggestions we make is Volkite. So, Volkite has a high number of shots, particularly Volkite Culverins. Yeah, Volkite Culverin is a really good example in terms of if you stand still, you get an extra shot. So they have 40 feet, like the Volkite Culverin has 45-inch range, and also causes deflagrate. So any of your opponent's saves that they fail, that will cause extra wounds. So if I fail 5 saves, that causes 5 extra wounds. I then roll to wound again on those saves, depending on the number in brackets next to the word deflagrate, and then that can cause extra wounds as well. So I think that Volkites were good in the previous edition. I
Mhm.
think because we've now kind of Tech Marines are no longer making artificer armor any longer. I think that they're going to have an even more prominent place.
Yeah.
So just a FYI though, Volkite Culverin on a heavy support squad is now 15 points, so a significant points increase. But I think it's worth looking at for an anti-infantry weapon. The next one, now Lee, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but autocannons, heavy support
I
autocannons,
haven't, no.
an eye-watering 20 points an autocannon. Isn't that
Fuck.
crazy?
That is
Crazy, isn't it?
crazy.
However, they are very destructive because they have a high volume of shots. A normal autocannon at the moment is 2 shots piece. They're 48-inch range, so they're a little bit further than like Volkite
Oh.
Culverins.
Hmm.
They're strength 7. So again, most things you're going to be wounding on 2s, and they're AP4. So AP4, I think, by virtue of the fact that Phalanx and things like that are AP3, like
Yeah.
they're not going to quite go through things like a hot knife through butter, but people will fail these saves. But what I will say about them is they are now damage 2. If your opponent fails on a Terminator one of their like 2-up saves, it's just going to be like they're dead, right? It's going to wound
Hmm.
a Terminator with their T5, and it's just going to go straight through them. So pretty
Yeah,
saucy.
I am a big fan of that because
Yeah,
I love the look of autocannons,
yep,
but in the previous edition, I know people some had some success with them, but
yeah.
it always felt again like yes, you've got a high volume of shots, but they're not that high
No, no, no.
when your
Well,
sergeant is just saving,
not
you know
only
what I mean?
that, Lee, because if you stand still, you'll get 1 extra shot with an autocannon.
Ah, nice. But
So
I feel
yeah.
like autocannons now are the perfect, yes, infantry killer, but also light vehicle.
Well,
You know.
we hold your
Am I getting
horses
ahead
there,
of
Lee.
myself?
Hold your
Sorry,
horses
sorry.
because we're going to get to that in a second. So autocannons we think is an anti-infantry option. I think are a really good option. So definitely have a look at those if you're thinking my army lacks a little bit of kind of anti-infantry. Have a look at autocannons. We think they're going to be valuable. And finally, a shout out to a weapon that we really did not see that much of
I
in the
mean,
previous
ever,
edition ever. I
ever?
think
Did
John maybe
I
took
think
one of
he
these
ran them
before.
once and then never ran them again? Did he?
Yeah.
I genuinely think he
So
was like, nah, these are shit.
yeah. So
Um,
which is the Morbus Bombard Phosphate Shell? It's 1 shot. It's range strength 5. It's AP3 and damage 1. However, it's blast 5 inches. It's
oh, there it is.
barrage 1. It's poison 3 up. And
Oh,
here's the
fuck.
kicker: it's panic 3.
Oh,
So
fuck.
if some of your guys you lose a guy on a
Yeah.
tactical squad, lose one guy, which you will do because it's AP3.
Hmm.
They are going to be forced to make a leadership check, even if they haven't lost 25% and you just clip the squad. Um, they're going to be forced to make a leadership check at -3, and on top of that, Lee, they are breaching 5 up.
Oh,
They are
shit.
the Morbus
Yeah.
Bombard is with the
They are
phosphate shells.
back, baby.
Man alive, like they are
Yeah.
fruity. So definitely worth a look into those, into the Morbus.
Fucking hell. I mean,
Yeah,
24 inches,
yeah, you're gonna have to get
you gotta
close, but
get
things
close.
yeah. But unlike other things, this can move and then shoot. So yeah. Anyway, so one to have a look at for infantry if you want some anti-infantry. Those 3 weapons we highly recommend. Now the elites. So by elites, we're talking about Terminators. Elite Terminators. We're talking about Justarin, Linnaeans, the 2 sworn enemies of every heresy player going at this moment in time. We're talking also about Saturnine Terminators as well. Now, the problem with these guys is you've got to be able to wound them, so that it needs to be high strength to be able to wound them. But also it's got to be low AP and it's got to be high damage as well because these Terminators, particularly Saturnine
Yeah.
Terminators, are hovering around the 2, 3. I mean, a Saturnine Terminator Praetor is like hovering around I think it's like 6 wounds, something absolutely obscene like that, isn't it? So we need to have high amounts of damage to be able to take those on. So one of the options is the conversion beam cannons and the inversion beamers. So respectively, conversion beam long range is strength 8, it's AP2, and it's 3 damage. As it gets closer to the enemy, it gets a little bit weaker. So conversion beams are ones to have a look at. And of course, we saw for the first time, Lee, the inversion beam cannon on the Saturnine Dreadnought, which is that if you
Oh,
get
yes. The
closer to your
closer.
opponent, it actually gets stronger. So on a very, very tough chassis, walking slowly towards your opponent, you might want to fire these blasts out. So the inversion beamer. So this is the one that you really want to know about, which is at less than kind of 15-inch range. It's one shot. It is range strength 8, but it can increase its range strength if it stays still. I think that's probably unlikely because you probably want to get your Saturnine Dreadnought to be as close to the opponent as possible. And it's quite a slow, it's on a slow chassis. It's
Yeah.
AP2 and it's damage 3. And here's the kicker. It's a 5-inch blast as well. So
Oh
this is going to
fuck.
be absolutely devastating
Yeah,
against
that's
people's
brilliant.
elites. Yeah, you can see why I wanted to do this show now, Lee. Yeah,
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
starting to
So
see like, woo, it's
don't
juicy.
the Saturnine Terminators, they have some funky shield that do they?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, they
trying
do.
to
They
I'm
have like a
struggling to remember now.
diffraction, and it's going to help them save them against things like Laz and Melter and stuff like that. But nothing about
Okay, it
fucking
doesn't affect.
conversion beamers and inversion
Interesting,
beamers as well.
interesting.
So yeah, definitely having a look into those ones. And of course,
Hmm.
Melter is going to be massively valuable. Now they've done a big push on disintegrator weapons. I think that disintegration weapons, they look cool. Don't get me wrong, they absolutely do. Like, and surely everybody will have a little squad of disintegrators in there just for the fact they look brilliant. However, there's always the risk with the overload. That's the problem with the
Yeah.
disintegrator rifle, disintegrator blaster, and things like that. That you're going to kill yourself. And I suspect that what we will find is that most people will probably favour the melter over the disintegrator weapon, partly because it doesn't blow up in your face. The Tech Marines have been maintaining them as well, and the fact that it's high strength, so most of it's going to be around strength 8, if not all of it. It's low AP, so AP2. It's very high damage, and then especially in Maelstrom range, it's going to double that damage as well. So
It's the trifecta, isn't
yeah,
it? High
absolutely.
strength, low AP,
Yeah.
high damage. Like
So
that
if you are
is just
struggling
beautiful.
against your friends' elites and they're absolutely smashing your dick in with their Saturnine and they're just staring or whatever, not to pick on Sons of Horus players, I'll pick with their suzerain or whatever, then it might be you just go, okay, I need to introduce some Melter into my list to be able to combat those elite units. So 2 or 3 weapons there that we think might look a bit fruity, and I'm hoping GW release that inversion beamer kit as soon as possible because I'm definitely going to be like with my Saturnine Geo just smashing things with my inversion beamer, getting close as possible. And imagine that on like a white. I know it's not very white scarsy, but you're just like, oh, my dread can move 8 inches and it's going to
Yeah,
get close.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not fluffy, but man, it's like somebody brought a white scars dread.
I
Um,
mean, they still had them. They just didn't have
Saturnine dread to
very
the
many
table and
of
be like,
them.
"Ah." It's quite frightening.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's move to HQs. So HQs are in their own slot in the sense that much of the anti-elite weapon we've just discussed are going to be useful against HQs, of course. But the problem is people are going to protect their HQs by not putting wounds on them. So what you're going to need some precision shots to be able to take them down. Now this was nightmarish. I personally think there was too much precision in 2.0,
Mm.
and unfortunately they don't seem to have got rid of precision, which makes me sad panda. But if you are looking at executing your opponent's HQ units, then I highly recommend the Kraken Bolter on Seekers. So they are precise. They come with precision shots 4 up, but they can also choose the kind of shot that they do as well, and they can gain a benefit and a special rule. So like one of the special rules is that they can become like breaching 4 up as well. So they're
Oh
precision shots
fuck.
4 up, and they're breaching for shot 4 up. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to put all these attacks on your Praetor, and then all of the 4 ups are going to then be they're going to go straight through his armor, so they're onto his invuln save. So that's I think the Kraken bolters. If you're looking to kind of like eliminate HQs from the table, bear in mind that there are lots going on. Something just to bear in mind. Kraken bolters on Seekers might be a good option, and then of
Mm.
course people from 2.0 will know this one and dread this one as well, which is Nemesis bolters. So slight change on Nemesis bolters. So they're actually
Oh.
only range 48 this time. So they're not 72, which
Ah.
is nice. But they have 1 shot each. Their range strength 4, but if they stand still, their range strength is 5. They're AP 5, which is what they were before, and they're only I say only 1 damage, but they are precision 4 up, and they're breaching 5 up as well, and they do cause pinning. And they're pinning 1. So that check
Mm.
will need to be made at -1. So yeah, so if you want to eliminate characters, the Kraken bolters and the Nemesis bolters, I think are going to be your friend. Of course, they won't be the only weapons with precision shots in them, but I think those are probably the two that everybody has access to within the Space Marine arsenal. Let's have a look at the next two because we're going to talk about those autocannons again, Lee. I know you're absolutely keen to talk about them. So let's talk about dreads. So dreads are in an interesting place. So we don't know if we've got the box dread at the moment, whether that's going to make a comeback. But we do have the Contemptor, which I think probably everyone in the lands of all the worlds of all the Horus heresies took or had. We've got the Leviathan Dreadnought, which is slightly tougher, and then we've got the Saturnine Dreadnought as well. Now, the Saturnine Dreadnought kind of stands alone in a number of ways because it's got minuses to like las and stuff like that in terms of strength. And then you can also, on top of that, add in the -1 strength from the Iron Hands, or the Thousand Suns have a reaction where they can add +2 toughness or whatever. And then also, salamanders can't be wounded on ones and twos. So there are exceptions with the legions that makes the Saturnine Dread much tougher, but we'll just talk in the kind of just generally about dreads just in a roundabout way. So exactly with elites, what you're going to need is high strength, low AP to go through the armor and rely on their 5-up invuln, which isn't that reliable really. And you're going to need, and this is the most important bit, high amounts of damage. You really want a lot of damage on your shots in order to take down these dreads as quickly as possible. So there's a couple of options. So we've already talked about the conversion beamers and the conversion beam cannons. Now that will just clip a dreadnought once, obviously, because they're blasts, but the fact that they will do D3 and their strength 8 or can be strength 8 depending on the range, but it's the damage D3 which I think is going to be useful. Melter, I think, is going to be really, really useful. Most of the
Yeah.
time, it's going to be winning on 3s or 4s. So in many ways, it's kind of like it doesn't really matter that you're a salamander because I'm just like I couldn't even wound you on like 2s anyway. But that's going to be massively useful, and within Melter range, it's going to do a fair amount of damage as well. Now, last cannons are an interesting place. I think last cannons can be used for dreadnought killing, but it's the fact that their damage 1 is going to hurt it. The higher strength 10 is strength 9 is going to be massively valuable because most of the time it's going to be wounding on 3s or 4s. Um, Depending on what legion you are, etc. And when you're going like against a Leviathan or a Saturnine Dread. But Lascannons is good, but the problem is if you have to move, it's reduced to damage 1. If you can stationary
Yeah.
Lascannons, I think are going to be again absolutely dread killers. And then there's a tasty little morsel, which is the las cannon array. So las cannon arrays are super spicy. So las cannon arrays are 48-inch range, and bear in mind this is what comes on the Spartan. Now, Lee, get a load of this. They're 2 shots on a las cannon array, and the
Okay.
Spartan comes with 2 of these. They're strength 9, fine. They're AP2, fine. They are damage 3. Each one of those shots is
Yes.
damage 3. So I think
Spartans are
that's
back, baby.
man alive. Like that is just like, oh, you see that dreadnought there?
Pew pew.
Fucking gone. And a bonus to that also is the fact that it's got armor bane as well. So actually, it's going to be pretty good against like
And you
tanks
can
as well.
stick a multi-melter on your Spartan just
Yeah,
for double
for
whammy.
lols. Yeah,
Just for
exactly right.
lols.
So the last cannon array, I think, is going to be actually a really good
Ah,
option
yeah.
against Dreadnought. So keep an eye on those ones. I think Spartans, as you say, Spartans are back. They're pretty scary, pretty frightening
Mm.
with their AV-14. Right. Well, we're talking about AV, and that's going to lead me nicely to AV 11 to 12, AV 11 to 13. So we're talking about rhinos here, and we're talking about like Sakarans and Predators on the front armor. So lots of these things that we have talked about before can be applied to these kinds of tanks. So Melter, like you can't get any glancing hits from Melter um, within by virtue of the fact it's got armor bane. Um, but it will do, especially if you're in Melter range, it will do an awful lot of damage if you are in close range. Las cannons are going to be massively useful. Again, those have got armor bane. They do damage too. They're high strength, so they're just las cannons are just like I think they are going to continue to be the premium like anti-tank. Um,
Yeah.
But one thing I think you should consider, and this is important here, if you don't want to destroy a tank, but you do want to put statuses on it, I'd highly recommend looking at autocannons as an option. Now, they are, I know, expensive on heavy support squads, but there are other ways to access autocannons, like things like Saccharin and the new Arachne. Like that's a 10-shot autocannon. Like it's pretty fruity.
Yeah.
But the thing about the autocannons is, sure, they do higher damage, but they're less because they're at strength 7. They're less likely to cause a pen, and actually, chances are you might be able to get a glance on those tanks. So if you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna insultingly put a tactical statuses on all my
Yeah, I
opponent's
hadn't even
tanks.
thought of that, you know.
Like
Yeah. Yeah,
autocannons
yeah.
might be an option to try and force those ones. Now they are going to be completely useless against AV-14, but those lower value AV tanks, autocannons might be a good option there. But as I say, there's lots of array of autocannons. So it's not just the one that comes on heavy support squads, but just bear that one in mind. So you might sometimes I think in this new age of 3.0 that we're in at the moment, it's not going to be like, ah, man, I didn't manage to kill that tank. If you put a tactical status on a tank, I think that like your opponent's not going to be able
Yeah,
to fix that
yeah, yeah,
except on a
yeah.
6 up if they don't have a tech marine or battlesmith.
Mm,
So it's just like, well, that basically means it's out of the game now until I
mm.
can fix it. So, that might be a way to shut down tanks rather than just destroying them completely. So, yeah, something to bear in mind. AV-14. Now, this is the bit that I think is going to be more complex for players to get their head around. And the fact that Melter now, you're basically fishing for sixes to cause pens, because that glance from that 6 will automatically become a pen. It means
Yeah.
that Melters can't put statuses on AV-14, and also you're fishing. Like that's the first thing to consider. So I would not recommend Melter against AV-14. Like that's my first piece of advice. However, I would recommend las cannons. So in this circumstance, you're now fishing for 5s and 6s. Okay, so it's much better than Melter, and those 5s and 6s are armor bane, so they're going to become pens. Particularly stationary las cannons are going to be massively useful here. The other one to consider is the laser destroyer. Now, the laser destroyer is the weapon on which comes on the carriage. It's the new kit from GW. They were really popular in 2.0 and also popular in 1.0. They were very reliable because they used to have twin linked, but not
Mm.
anymore. The laser destroyer, right? Get a load of this, Lee, because you're going to fucking
Come on, tell
froth.
me.
So they are 36-inch range, so nothing changed
Okay.
there.
Yeah,
They're two
yeah, yeah.
shots, nothing's
Okay.
changed there. They are now strength 10.
Ooh,
Yes,
spicy.
strength 10, AP 2, and damage 2. So each one of those is strength 10 and it's AP 2. They're heavy damage. So if
Okay.
it
Yeah, yeah,
stays
yeah.
still,
Free damage.
it's going to be 3 damage, and it's also armor bane as well. So I think that between laser destroyers and las cannons, these are going to be still just that whole last section. This is still the premium anti-tank weapon, but I think that
Yeah.
you are likely to see in many lists laser destroyers now. Now, I do want to flag up the neutron laser battery. Now, this is on a Cerberus. Now, Cerberus is now a plastic tank. It used to be resin, and you didn't see a lot of these in
No.
in second edition, despite the fact it went to 2.0. But I do want to flag it up because I think that these are going to be AV-14 murderers. Like, if you're struggling with your opponents at Kratos or Spartans, or your friend is taking a Spartan bang bus all the time, filled with like a Primarch and their boyfriends, and you're just like, I do not know how to deal with this, have a
Here's
look at the
your answer.
neutron laser battery. So it's 72-inch range. So you can just put your your Cerberus in the corner and just be like, right, let's just like get a beam here.
T Terrain depending, but yeah.
Yeah. It is 3 shots a piece. It's strength 10, so already strong. It's AP 2, and each one of those is damage 3. Now, get a load of
Mm.
this. It is Ordnance D. That means if it stays still, it doubles the amount of damage. It doesn't just add 1, Ordnance doubles the amount of damage. So if it stays still, right, it now does damage 6 on each of those 3 shots, and each of those shots have armor bane as well. Like this is
Fuck.
going to be an absolute Spartan and Kratos murderer. Sure, I think
Yeah.
you could say, look, I need to hit on threes, and then I need to glance that, or not even glance, and then to do anything, I would on AV14, I need to roll a four as well. Sure, but every one of those fours that you roll, that's going to be 6 damage if you stay still. Like they are absolute murderers of AV14 now. So definitely one to have a look at. So that's just giving you a quick guide. If you're starting to list build and just thinking, okay, I'm not really sure where to start with, like making sure that I've got a range of weaponry and range weaponry in my army, this is where to begin. And I just want to do just one final thing because I know we are definitely going to be talking about this in Tacticas, which is the drop pod. Now, if there is, and call me whack if you want to, but if I predict that this is going to be a meta choice for many people, which is that I think many people are going to look at a drop pod now and go, I can fill that with a Melter support squad and I
Yeah.
can drop that down. You do not intercept the guys coming out now. You intercept the drop pod, which means that actually those guys are going to be unscathed, which is very different to how it was in the previous edition. And because it's a drop pod, it will come down from the second turn. You can only do one deep strike anyway. Come down second turn. You put it next to a target that you want utterly demolished, and then it's dead. There's even a case, I think, for saying, okay, I'm going to put a heavy support squad in
Mm.
in one of these multi-melter heavy support squad. Sure, it's going to be expensive. Multi-melters are 25 points, but actually, if they can get their points back just with one round of shooting as soon as they come down in a relatively cheap, it's 50 points for a drop pod now. A relatively cheap transport, and they're going to be relatively safe because they can't be intercepted. I think that this is going to be a pretty interesting choice in terms of games, and it might be something that people need to think about carefully. And the thing about the drop pod, which is different to say like a flyer doing a drop, the flyer comes on, it stays at the edge of the board, then your opponent can intercept and then it has to do its thing. So it's got to be able to survive that intercept from people. The drop
Mm.
pod, it comes down, you intercept the pod, and the guys still come out. So they are much safer now. And I suspect that this is going to be a pretty meta choice in the game. But of course, Horus Heresy is all about narrative play. But just something to consider if you are struggling against your opponents, like 5 Dreadnought lists that they keep on taking. This might be one to have a look at. Anyway, with that, what Lee? What's your thoughts on that one? Any thoughts on
Yeah,
what
I
we've just
like
gone
it. I
through?
was thinking, I mean, it depends. It depends on the meta, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
depends. I know. I will be honest. There is a bit of me that's like, I have this tank force, and then I have a single drop pod that kind of doesn't
Yeah,
work
doesn't
with me.
yeah.
But I think, yeah, I don't hate, chucking in a unit, but in a drop pod. I quite like the idea of sticking a load of flamers in this and just
Oh,
burning
mate, and
tack
and
squads
causing
off
panic, right?
objective.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
causing panic. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, yeah.
Or even a couple, just because you can only bring one in a
In
turn,
turn.
I guess
Yeah.
the trouble is now it's 4 turns, isn't it? But
So you can bring in three. Yeah, and
yeah,
yeah,
but then they're doing less, aren't they? I feel like the fact that vehicles can move faster nowadays and still deploy troops,
mm, mm,
there's a call for just sticking people in rhinos. But yeah, I do I do like this.
yeah.
I immediately was thinking, how does it work for Death Guard? Because does this,
Yeah, so if they just move 4 inches, then does that or their initiative? Then does it mean?
but
Yeah,
does
we'd
it
have to
count
take a look.
because they're getting out of a vehicle? I
We'd have
wonder
to
if
look at it
that,
because they cover that
yeah.
in the last basis. We'll have to have a when we do our
But something
further
like that
deep
could be quite
dives.
interesting.
Yeah, really, really interesting.
I'd have to look into the rule, how the rule is written,
Yeah,
for Death Guard and getting out of vehicles. But
yeah,
yeah, I like the idea. I like
yeah.
it a lot.
So,
We didn't see.
autocannons, do you think you'll add some autocannons? Because I think that
Oh,
they
I like
are,
to like.
yeah,
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 I kind of wish I'd put the Gravis autocannons on my Dreadnought now because
yeah.
they look cool as fuck. But I went for the whack kind of last cannons, Gravis
What
last
what
cannon.
an idiotic boob you were
I
back then,
know.
eh? Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I can see myself doing some autocannons, and I think for me, it's about being. Yeah, I think they're going to be good anti-infantry just for the amount of shots.
yeah.
They're sort of eye-wateringly expensive. Um, for five guys, it's 100 points, right? So
Yeah,
10-man autocannon squad, I think, is going to be
I
around
feel
250 points,
yeah.
somewhere around that point mark.
It
Um,
kind of depends what else you've got in your army, isn't it? Because
we
they're a
say this all the
threat, but
time.
they're
Yeah,
not a huge threat. It's
yeah,
like, do
yeah,
I really want to put all this firepower?
yeah,
But then, heavy weapon squads nowadays are less survivable because they don't have that sergeant
yeah, yeah,
taking all those
100%.
shots.
Yeah,
So,
unless of course they're next to an Arachne autocannon, and then
I mean,
and then
there's
they
ways
go five
around
up in front.
everything,
Yeah,
isn't there? But
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
interesting.
one of the big enlightening ones for me was that the laser rapier.
Yeah,
I know I called it a laser rapier, but I actually mean the laser
neutral.
destroyer.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, okay.
that
Sorry.
like
Yeah, yeah.
being strength 10,
Mm,
and the fact that the las cannon array on the Spartan does 3 damage was like, when I was looking through, I was like, whoa,
yeah.
these are pretty tasty against like high value targets. Probably not tanks so much, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, they could be
true.
used for tanks, but
Yeah.
I think I'd just be like, actually, this is more of a dreadnought cadet because I need to remove the wounds as
I
quickly as
mean, I
possible.
guess yeah, depends what you're using your Spartan for. If you're
Yeah.
using your Spartan as as you say, like a bang bus for your main shit kickers, then you probably want to stick those last cannon arrays into whatever you're going to charge.
Mm.
But if you're just hoarding loads of troops in a Spartan just to keep them safe,
Yeah.
then it's yeah. I like the idea of having a Spartan, even just with like I don't know, like 15 tac marines in,
Yeah.
just as a like a fire base,
Yeah.
and you can keep your dudes safe, and then they
Mm.
can run out and start scoring whenever you want, or you can push them
Yeah.
forwards and
Keep,
start
keep
scoring.
them keep them safe unless your opponent has a neutron laser
But
battery
this
on a
is it, yeah, yeah. But
Cerberus,
hopefully
right?
we start seeing things we haven't seen
Yeah.
because, like you say, Cerberus. I know Tom ran Cerberus
Mm.
a while, but I don't think he had a huge amount of luck with it.
No.
I haven't seen Spartans in ages in any sort of, back in first edition, everyone had a fucking Spartan with a Primarch in, and
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
kind of disappeared entirely.
Yeah.
But again, they're still an expensive model, aren't they?
They're
As in
400,
points.
points. Yeah, 400 points now. Like, yeah, it's
So,
crazy.
it's a lot of points, and then you've got to factor in what you're putting in it as well. Like a
Mm.
third of your army is tied up in a tank and
Mm.
a unit that's probably going to be good at close combat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It'd be interesting to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
when we
I
start getting battlefield data, seeing how people
Yeah,
get on with these different
I
things.
think for me as well, having sort of put this together, and then kind of talking it through now, I'm much clearer about what is needed in my armory in third edition, in the sense that, okay,
Okay.
I need a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of this. Now, you might argue that not too much has changed. You could argue that Melter and Lascannons have always been good at killing elites. Like that's always been that's always been the thing. But I suppose that the downgrading of artificer armor just means that like weapons such as autocannons might play more of a prominent place within the
Yeah.
meta,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like the knock-on effect is that will we see more Arachne of the coming up, because they're only 125 points. They provide a 5 up invuln. They've got like their normal ballistic skill. They are 10 shots
Yeah.
apiece, which is pretty fruity.
And we've got the
And
tarantulas now as well.
yeah,
We
yeah,
haven't talked about tarantulas, but that'd be
and
interesting to see how people get on with them.
yeah, and then will we see more of, say, the normal Sakaran? Because the normal Sakaran actually didn't really see too much of a normal Sakaran in the previous edition.
No, no.
I ran two a couple of times. I really like their damage output, but like I really feel like this might be a good weapon to cause tactical statuses on people and just be like, tactical status, like that tank can't do anything. You got to roll a 6 to be able to get it back up and running, because you don't have a tech marine in your army, and also like even if you do have a tech marine in your army, it's not right next to that tank right now to be able to fix it. So yeah, I think it's funny because in many ways, like tanks have become tougher, but also the danger of tactical statuses is going to be just looming over them at
Yeah,
all points, which
yeah,
is an interesting one to kind of navigate around, I think. Yeah. Anyway, well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We'll
It's
leave it there, and we'll just finish up with the final slide, just to say, if you don't haven't done all these things yet, then make sure you do, and don't forget this is the kind of flavor and taste of things that you'll have on our Patreon. For the next Patreon video, I'm actually going to look at tactical status and weapons that we think might be useful when causing tactical statuses. So we've got this first layer, and this first layer, I guess, is about destruction. We're just talking about killing stuff, but actually, we now need to look at, okay, well, there's another layer to this, which is that what weapons are going to be causing tactical statuses, and how do I need to introduce those into my force as well? And having a healthy balance of weaponry, I think, is going to be important within your army list. It strikes me that 3.0 is about going to be about combined arms,
Yeah, I think
but
so.
also that combined arms also includes a variety of weaponry that does different jobs and under different circumstances, and different legions are going to be able to have to manage that as well. Certainly, if you look at Night Lords, I think you're going to have to think carefully about your all of your tactical statuses, and for you guys, it might be less about just destroying your enemy outright and causing as many tactical statuses on infantry models as possible in order to get all those buffs to close combat that you get. So you
Mm.
might be playing a different game than the utter total destruction to the one that everybody else is playing. So, but we will have a look at that more in depth on our show that will be exclusively for our Patreons. So if you're not a Patreon yet, make sure you sign up. Anyway, with that, take care, guys, and we shall see you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.